to talk about the work that this task force has been doing are the co-chairs of it, Keith Williams and Cidney Calloway. Welcome, Keith and Cidney, to our town hall.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
It's great to see both of you. Keith, I'm going to start with you. You and I have had several conversations about this task force since it started. Like I said, you guys started out last year. We're a year or more into this now. Catch us up. Where are we with the monumental effort, really, that you guys have to undertake to just start figuring out what the scope of this issue is?
You know, I'm going to start it like this. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Last year, when me and you talked, we was going through some difficult periods, but I think we're now on track. When Robert Simmons came to Detroit last year, we were trying to find our way, but Robin got us on track about where do we need to go, and that was like to start with a harms report. Then after that, we got involved with University of Michigan, and University of Michigan was doing the harm report, and then after that, with my relationship with the regional aspect of Robert Simmons. Municipal reparations. I met Linda Mann some years ago, and she came in and she did the what we call the impact report. You got the harm report and the impact report, and so you know we're really trying to get on track to get this report done by October. Cidney has been really doing a good, fabulous job doing in the inner workings of it. I'm just looking at the big picture. And Cidney can elaborate a little bit more on the internal aspect of it, but I think we're well on our way to getting this report done.
So before I get to Cidney, Keith, what happens after October? Let's say it's November 2024. What should Detroiters expect will be happening at that point?
Well, our focus should be on what the ballot initiative stated, make recommendations on housing and economic development. When this report is all said and done, it should have met those criteria. Yes, we added some other stuff to it because the cultural aspect was destroyed during those years from 1929 to up until when Motown left. Then you got to look at the healthcare aspect. My brother died in 1961 in our house because he didn't have proper health care. He died of measles and pneumonia. And we couldn't get access to the proper healthcare professionals to help us with that situation. Just imagine all the families surrounded with your dad, mom, and the baby's held in your mother's arms, and he's dying in front of us. And then I can go back to 1960, as my father told me, 4 of his sisters died in a house in Hamtramck because of tuberculosis. So you got to add all those things and come up with a comprehensive report that's going to be sellable. We've got to be able to sell this to all the people because you got skeptics out here that, you know, it's a handout, as you heard in the previous interview, but we got to make it that can't be too far to the left or too far to the right. It's got to be pragmatic and sellable to the Detroiters who voted for this.
Yeah. Cidney, this is the first time you and I are talking about this. You're relatively new to the task force. First thing I want to do is give you a chance to introduce yourself, talk a little about your background.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Henderson. My name is Cidney Calloway. I'm a native Detroiter, born and raised here on the West Side. I am a fellow, or I was a former fellow with the Movement for Black Lives 2 times over. So for 2 seasons, I got to learn on a national scale with the Movement for Black Lives. I've been an activist since 2020. And this has been a phenomenal opportunity for a knowledge exchange. There's a lot of wisdom on this task force. There's a lot of history that's being shared, and I'm learning a lot. I never thought that I would be in any type of leadership position. Never thought I'd end up being the co-chair, but very privileged and honored to be with this team and very excited about this work.
So let's talk about this goal of recommending housing and economic development programs that would boost opportunities for Black Detroiters. Talk about, Cidney, what you guys have found so far, and especially what you're hearing from the public.
Yeah, so we've been having some really phenomenal internal meetings as of late, and we're starting to work on the outline for our report. So we want to make sure that this report not only goes to City Council, but that it's something that can be consumed by the residents and make sure that they're informed. They know what type of programs we're working on. We are going to be releasing quite a few surveys over the next couple of months to really engage with our community to make sure that they have an opportunity to engage and give their input to make sure that their voices are amplified in this process. We've gotten a report back from Columbia University speaking to quite a few different things that they observed while they were here. It was fantastic to have them here in person, allowing them to visit some of these sites of harm and really put some tangible pieces to the research that they were doing. I'm very excited about the U of M report to come out, but we really want to center the voices of the residents, give them an opportunity to give us some feedback and to really help drive the way that this work is going to go, because the 13 of us can't do it alone. We're working in a beautiful Black city, and we need to make sure that every voice is amplified. So that's where we're at right now. We're working on our outline for the framework, talking about feasibility, sustainability, not even just for housing and education, affordable quality housing, because we have to insert that word quality there. But we're looking for a holistic approach. So we heard some commentators or some comments saying that, you know, there's a little bit of skepticism, that if they don't have an education piece to it, that it's it feels like it's for naught. It feels like this is all in vain. But we want to make sure that there's some type of mention to some systemic change, some policy change. So we got a lot on our plate, but it's very exciting to get into this work with everyone.
The University of Michigan has partnered with the Detroit Reparations Task Force to provide research on reparative justice here in Southeast Michigan. Joining me now is Rita. She's an associate dean at the University of Michigan in the graduate programs there. She brought together university faculty members for this coordinated effort. Rita, welcome to the town hall.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start here. Explain how U of M's partnership with the task force came to be and what some of the goals are.
Okay, well, as many of you probably know, the University of Michigan is a pretty big and unwieldy institution. And so there are actually a number of different units who are participating in this partnership with the task force. Rackham, the graduate school, is one partner. But there are two others that I think are worth sort of calling out here. The first is the Center for Social Solutions, which is directed by Dr. Earl Lewis. And that center actually began 3 or 4 years ago already in partnership with Lauren Hood and her Afrofuturism kind of project to think about reparations, specifically in relation to Black Bottom and the prospect of the resurfacing of I-375. So that was a kind of seed. And then as the task force got up and running, Lauren was actually initially one of the co-chairs of the task force. And so she sort of brought the Center for Social Solutions and myself into conversation with the task force, thinking about sort of how we might begin to address some of these research questions, right? Because it's one thing to sort of know the kind of sort of newspaper or media level, have that kind of understanding of the harms that have been done. But in order to actually make a kind of substantive case for reparations, we knew that it was going to be important to have real kind of documentation on a number of fronts. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, one of the subcommittees for the Detroit Reparations Task Force reached out to another U of M unit, that's Poverty Solutions, and asked them to begin to write a harms report that was focused on housing. And so the 3 U of M units have actually been coordinated in trying to bring together a kind of more holistic, as Keith was talking about and Cidney were talking about, view of what the harms experienced by Black Detroiters have been. And so my role in that was really convening a group of different faculty experts, so political scientists, historians, urban planners, social work experts, public health experts, Now we have someone on the team who is focused on education, public policy, and also climate science, right? Because we found that actually so much of the harm that has been done to Black Detroiters that we typically associate with housing is actually connected to environmental hazards like air quality, flood risk, which can lead to health problems around Black mold. And then those impact things like education and how often students miss school because of all of these other kinds of health issues. And so we started to find, as we were kind of unpacking different disciplinary perspectives, that they're very much connected, and that housing is in many ways the kind of spine of the harm. But it seemed important to also tease out all of these other implications, ramifications, consequences, and present those in this harms report to the task force so that they have kind of maximal information.
Recently, we saw Chicago's mayor announce that he is going to order the creation of a reparations task force to examine policies in that city that have harmed African Americans. Give us a sense of what you've learned, Malachi, about how other cities are approaching this, and are there things that we should be looking to in some other places to guide our work here in Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, we're like in a really interesting moment in history when it comes to reparations in the United States of America. For a long time, the pressure was put on Congress. Our longtime Detroit Congressman John Conyers had been pushing for a commission at the federal level. Well, in kind of a response to the lack of progress, there are a lot of cities that have begun taking this up, and it really started with Evanston, Illinois, as we've mentioned, the suburb of Chicago. They were the first city to create reparation proposals, really based around its history of racial segregation in housing, which is pretty similar to what we've experienced in Detroit. And so they were kind of like the first mover, the first city to really show that this was possible. And we've really seen like an explosion of cities and a couple of states around the country creating local task forces to look at, what have their governments been responsible for. A lot of them are in the similar position that Detroit is in. They have a task force assembled. They're starting to partner with researchers to come up with studies that will kind of inform their work, but they haven't necessarily put recommendations out. In a few instances, there have been some proposals put forward, but it's not clear how it will be funded. A California task force had talked about including cash payments, but that ended up being pulled off the table. But some pretty major, New York is working on something, Boston, Knoxville, Tennessee, Philadelphia, that all have task forces. Kansas City created a reparations commission last year. They're actually collecting donations. So there's a few different ways that cities are kind of trying to tackle the funding question and the legal constraint question. Evanston used marijuana tax revenue. We're a little bit limited in our ability to do that. We do get a portion of marijuana taxes from the state, but it's really kind of too small of an amount of funding to really, I think, do what we would like to do here. So we have to get kind of creative about that. And I think there will be questions for, the governor of Michigan and state lawmakers about what responsibility the state bears and if they're going to put it forward. But, we're really just seeing a lot of cities travel along a similar path. And I think that creates partnerships too, that, the city's Detroit's been working with Evanston, Illinois, and, we're all kind of on the same trajectory.